are pretty when you're Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with a review of a pre-partition Indian novel originally written in Urdu, The One Who Did Not Ask by Altaf Fatima. The English translation is by Roxana Ahmad, and I read this over a 2.5 month or 3 month period this year. I originally started it for the Women in Translation readathon and didn't get it finished that particular month, but I have just finished it recently. This was a wonderful 5-star read for me, and as a reader I failed miserably with this text. It was incredibly challenging, and I still loved it with all my heart. I'm planning to reread it in a few years. Altaf Fatima is still alive. She was born, she's 91, I think. Wow, guys. Well, as I was editing the video, I filmed it a week or 10 days ago, and I'm editing it on December 2nd, and I just stumbled upon the news that Altaf Fatima died last Thursday, November 29th. She was 91. It gives me a real chill because I connected so deeply with this novel. So just wild. Rest in peace. And I couldn't find the original publication date anywhere, but the translation publication date is 1993. This is about an extended family in pre-partition India. Starts maybe just before World War II. The historical time period was very difficult to suss out until near the end. I wasn't sure if it was World War I or World War II. It's such an insular culture with very few references to the outside world, but various of the brothers were going off to war, and I didn't really get a grip on the historical time period until the partition happened, and then, okay, it was World War II. This novel is preoccupied with the family members, and the main character is Gaiti, and she is a twin and a daughter of an upper-class Muslim family. Doesn't have a warm relationship with her mother or many of her siblings. She's very independent, tomboyish, and absolutely you can't help but fall in love with her because she's so independent-minded. And she strikes up an unconventional friendship with a Chinese immigrant. He is a laborer, a delivery boy, and a shoemaker. And he is really the other main character, although he doesn't get enough attention in the novel. But the relationship between those two, in the midst of such a deeply monocultural, traditional society, that this outsider could forge such a intense relationship. It's not a romantic relationship, but that captivated my interest and made this novel an absolute joy to read. Altaf Fatima creates really rich characters and depicts the relationships, the multi-layered, humorous, literally pathetic, heartbreaking dynamics between a wide range of characters within the family, and then this one Chinese guy, Safdar. Sorry, his name is Safdar. And even though there was a lot in this book that was really hard to follow, it was the depth of the characterization and the relationships between the characters that was the real joy for me. I said a moment ago that I failed as a reader, and it was because I was reading this alongside many other books, and most books I can read alongside other books. This is one that required a lot more attention because it's not particularly reader-friendly if you aren't familiar with that culture. So Ahmad gives 2 vocabulary lists. One is at the end of her introduction, where she gives a bunch of kinship titles, and another one at the end, a glossary of other Urdu words. I would say that was maybe a shortcoming of the book. Those vocabulary lists needed to be merged and needed to be maybe 5 or 10 times as long. There was a lot of Urdu vocabulary, and I could Google much of it, but the characters in this story have affectionate nicknames and are sometimes referred to by their first names and sometimes by their family names, other times just by their nicknames. And it's such a large family that at a certain point, because for much of my reading of this novel, I wasn't reading it intensely. I was reading a couple chapters a week. I just got to a point where I let go of keeping track of the extended family. I had been reading it more intensely for the first month, and so I had a pretty good idea, but, then you pick up the book up after a week and go, who is this and which nickname? And I couldn't follow it anymore. But I just chose to focus on the immediate family of Gati, her twin sister, Arjumand, and that immediate family. And then other cousins and aunts and uncles would come in and out, and I think I remember who that is, but just enjoy the dialogue and the story. So that's how I failed this book. It's a book that really needs a lot of attention, and the next time that I read it, and I do recommend it heartily to you, but I also recommend that if you tackle it, it's out of print, you'll have to find a used copy somewhere, that you make a list of each character as they enter the novel, what names are being used, and cross-reference those to keep track of it all. Because I think it would be an even deeper, more rewarding experience if I or you could actually follow this huge extended family. But yet I absolutely loved it. It was one of my top reads of the year, even though I missed so much. So, who was it that said, even bad sex is better than no sex at all? Well, even a bad read of this novel is better than not reading it. It really captured my heart. I love Gati, and I loved Safdar, and I yearned for them to be more to each other throughout the novel. I always thought that it had a stupid title in English, The One Who Did Not Ask. Well, by the time I finished the novel, the title made perfect sense. It's considered a classic of Urdu literature, of 20th century Urdu literature, and I want to close with an excerpt which shows you the inaccessibility of the text. This is about a reminiscence that Gati, it's kind of like a Proust biting into the Madeleine near the end of the novel. She's removing the core from a mango, and I don't know anything about mangoes, but I just found this a really beautiful passage because there was so much that I couldn't quite grasp as a outsider. And this is right in the midst of the partition of India and all the murders and uprooting and all the terrible tragedy that befell this family and the nation. And suddenly, Gati noticed the 3 reddish-brown leaves, ready to unfold, rising from the top end of the pink stem, emerging from the stone of a mango planted at the base of the sandalwood tree. Her hands moved involuntarily, and she pulled out the stone which lay on top of the earth. All 3 tiny leaves and the pink stem snapped and fell on the grass. She stripped the outer mud-encrusted casing and drew out the bijli, the soft core of the stone, the quickening hidden in its heart. Bari Baya would squeeze that so easily, held between his thumb and forefinger, and ask it, "Bijli, re-bijli? Which way lies the house of Gati's in-laws?" Pop, the bijli would hop away and hide somewhere, and all of them would look for it desperately in order to discover the location of the house she would go to when she was married. He used to investigate where the in-laws of all the girls lived. Then, when he asked that question about Ismat Appa's in-laws, the bijli would disappear, and both of them would be left desperately looking for it. Huh! Why do these memories leech onto people's lives to harass them forever? Will I ever be rid of them? She felt irritated and scraped down the bijli against the rough trunk of the sandalwood tree. One end of it got rubbed down, turning it into a whistle, and akhawa pawi, the special mysterious odor which the bijli of the mango emits, escaped and besieged her senses. It is a strange spellbinding smell which makes you want to dissolve into it or bite into it so that you can chew it and absorb it into your own being. The thought of the sharp taste set her teeth on edge. Then, absent-mindedly, she held the whistle of the Beguiled to her lips. Beep, beep, beep. And she forgot that a revolution had come to pass, which she had described as a major revolution. The cuckoo in the garden sang, "I know." She heard Sukdai's voice waver again as she pushed forward the swing. And then she came in, frightened by the sudden leap of lightning in the sky. So, I Googled the hell out of this passage. I found it really captivating, and I couldn't find a clear meaning of Beguiled other than it was something, the essence in the core, the pit, the soft pit of the mango, the soft essence within the core of the mango. But in Urdu, it also means lightning. So that's really vivid. So I thought it. The insight thrummed through my body, but I didn't say it explicitly, that the idea of lightning and the core of the mango, the Beguiled, resonated so powerfully with the last line of that quote. So, wow. I didn't have any luck finding out what Akawa Foe was about. That's an example of the inscrutability as an outsider of this text that I found just mesmerizing. Someday I will find out. Maybe one of you will teach me what deep energies are circulating within this short quote that have to do with the Beguiled and the Akawa Foe and this mysterious odor. But for right now, I don't need to know to have been completely and utterly beguiled by this wonderful Urdu novel. I recommend it. If you're willing to take the plunge, I recommend it highly to you. That's all. Thanks for watching.